They are holding you back, not with chains, but with doubts they planted in your mind. Their fear became your fear, their limits became your prison. But let me tell you this, no one can define your destiny unless you hand them the pen. Break free from borrowed beliefs. The power to rise was always yours. Claim it now. 1. Other people's fears are not your truth. 2. Doubt is a virus. Don't catch it from small minds. 3. If they can't see your vision, it's not theirs to see. 4. Criticism often comes from those who never dared. 5. Surround yourself with believers, not dream killers. 6. Comfort zones of others are not your boundaries. 7. Your success begins the moment you stop seeking their approval. 1. They told you to be careful. They warned you about failing. They whispered their concerns, their doubts, their fears into your ears until their voices became louder than your own. And over time, you believed them. You accepted their hesitation as wisdom, their limitations as logic, and their fear as your safety net. But what if I told you that the very people you trust the most, the friends, the family, the teachers, the co-workers, even the ones who love you, may be holding you back, not with intention, not with cruelty, but with the weight of their own invisible chains? Other people's fears are not your truth. You see, fear is like a shadow. It follows those who give it light. It is passed down like a family heirloom, not as a treasure but as a warning, a caution, a whispered don't try too hard, don't aim too high, don't dream too big. And while it may be wrapped in concern and spoken with love, it's still fear. It's still the voice that says stay small, play safe, don't step out of line. But greatness doesn't bloom in the soil of safety. It grows in the wild, in the unknown, in the places others are too scared to go. And here's the truth. Most people operate from fear. They've been taught that the world is hard, that money is scarce, that success is rare, that happiness is for the lucky ones. So when they see you with fire in your eyes and big dreams in your heart, they get uncomfortable, not because you're wrong, but because your boldness confronts their hesitation. Your courage challenges their comfort. Your ambition reminds them of everything they never chased, and so instead of cheering you on, they caution you. Instead of lifting you higher, they ground you with doubt. Be realistic. They say, but what is realistic? Is it living paycheck to paycheck? Is it settling for a life that doesn't set your soul on fire? Is it waking up every morning dreading the day ahead? That may be reality for them, but it doesn't have to be yours. You were not born to shrink yourself to fit into someone else's idea of possible. You were born to expand, to push boundaries, to redefine what's achievable. And yes, it's scary. Yes, the unknown is uncomfortable. But fear is not a stop sign. It's a signal that you're stepping into growth, into uncharted territory, into the version of yourself that they're too afraid to become. Let's get one thing clear. You're not being held back by the economy or your education or your background. You're being held back by the voices you've internalized, voices that aren't even yours. They belong to people who gave up, people who never tried, people who tried once and failed and decided never to try again. And now, they walk through life building fences around everyone they love, thinking they're protecting them. But protection that limits potential is not love, it's fear in disguise, and the only way to break free is to start listening to a different voice. The one that's been whispering inside you since you were a child, the one that said you're meant for more, the one that dreamed without permission, the one that believed without evidence. That voice is your truth. That voice is your power. That voice is the part of you that never needed validation to know it was capable. So why have you been ignoring it? Why have you traded in your potential for other people's approval? Why have you allowed yourself to be talked out of your destiny by those who are too afraid to pursue theirs? It's time to stop. It's time to draw the line, because every minute you spend doubting yourself is a minute you're stealing from your own greatness. Every time you delay your dreams to make someone else comfortable, you're betraying your own future. You don't need their permission. You don't need their applause. You don't even need their understanding. What you need is to trust yourself, to back yourself, to believe so deeply in your vision that their fears bounce off you like rain off steel. The road ahead is not easy, but easy was never the goal. Fulfillment is. Purpose is, legacy is, and none of those are found on the path of least resistance. You've got to be willing to walk alone, to be misunderstood, to stand firm in a room full of doubters and say, I'm still going. Because one day, those same people will look at you, not with judgment, but with awe. They'll ask how you did it. They'll wonder how you found the courage, and maybe, just maybe, they'll find the courage to follow you. But don't wait for that. Don't wait for the world to catch up to your vision. Lead anyway, move anyway, rise anyway, because your life is not a group project. It's a solo mission. And while you can love people, while you can honor where they are in their journey, you cannot let them decide the direction of yours. Every time you choose to believe in yourself over their fears, you build strength. Every time you take one step forward despite the noise, you build momentum, and momentum is a force that even fear can't fight. You're not crazy for wanting more. You're not selfish for dreaming big. You're not unrealistic for believing you can change your life. You're just awake. And now that you're awake, you have two choices. Go back to sleep and let their fears guide your lie, or stay awake and let your purpose pull you forward. You don't have to know every step. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just need to take the first leap, and when you do, something shifts. The fear begins to shrink, the doubts begin to fade, and the path, once hidden, begins to unfold. But none of that happens if you stay stuck in the comfort of other people's expectations. So ask yourself, whose life are you living? Whose voice are you obeying? Whose fears have you accepted as fact? Because the moment you stop letting other people's fears define your truth is the moment you reclaim your power. It's the moment you start living, not just surviving. It's the moment your life becomes your own, and from that moment forward, nothing, no opinion, no doubt, no fear can stop you because you've seen what's possible. You've felt the fire inside you, and once you've felt that fire, you'll never again be satisfied with lukewarm. So light the match, burn the old beliefs, and build a new reality, not one based on fear, but on faith. Not one built on limits, but on limitless potential. And the next time someone tells you to be careful, to slow down, to be realistic, just smile, because you know something they don't. You know that their fear isn't your truth. It never was, it never will be. 2. Doubt is a virus. Don't catch it from small minds, because once it infects your thinking, it spreads quietly, silently, and dangerously until it paralyzes your potential and eats away at your confidence from the inside out, leaving you frozen in place, second, guessing your every move, every dream, every ambition, not because you lack the ability or the courage, but because you've allowed the whispers of the fearful and the uninspired to shape your belief system. And the most dangerous thing about doubt is that it never screams, it only whispers, slowly convincing you that maybe you're not ready, maybe you're not good enough, maybe you should wait, maybe someone else is better suited, and before you know it, you've shelved your vision and started living a life that belongs to someone else, someone smaller, someone safer, someone less bold than the person you were born to be. And this all began because you caught a virus of hesitation, a mental parasite disguised as wisdom from people who never dared to reach for anything beyond average, people who chose comfort over courage, who built their identity around excuses and wore fear like armor. And here's the hard truth. Small minds don't always look small on the outside. They might even be people you love, admire, respect, and trust. They could be smiling at you, shaking your hand, giving you advice laced with kindness and concern. But make no mistake, Their fear is still fear. Their limitations are still contagious, and just because someone means well doesn't mean their words are meant for you, because your journey is unique, your calling is rare, and your mission cannot be understood by those who never left the shore. So when someone tells you to slow down, play it safe, not risk too much, what they're really saying is, I never gave myself permission, so I don't want you to either. And if you listen, if you absorb that energy, if you begin to internalize their doubts, it won't be long before you sabotage your own dreams without even realizing it, convincing yourself that you're just being practical or mature or responsible, when in reality you're just scared and the fear doesn't even belong to you. You inherited it like a curse, passed down not through blood but through conversations, glances, warnings, and subtle disapprovals. And you owe it to yourself to stop the cycle, to wake up and recognize the symptoms, to realize when the doubt you feel is not yours but someone else's projections, someone else's pain, someone else's surrender to the status quo, because people who have lost their fire often feel threatened by those still burning, and so they try to put out your flame not with hatred but with fear, and you must be wise enough to know the difference between feedback that builds and feedback that binds, because feedback from someone who's never built anything will always sound like a limitation, not a lesson, and your job is not to fit into the narrow vision others have of what's possible. It's to stretch beyond it, to tear down their mental walls by refusing to let them shape yours, to be the example they never had, the inspiration they didn't believe was real. And you can't do that if you're constantly doubting yourself, constantly shrinking to make others comfortable, constantly waiting for permission from people who are too afraid to give it, because the truth is they might never approve, they might never support you, they might always try to clip your wings with what-ifs and be carefuls. But their fear is not your burden to carry, and the sooner you let go of needing their agreement, the freer you become to create, to lead, to risk, to live fully, because doubt will always be there. It's part of the journey. But you get to choose whose doubt you carry, your own honest self-reflection, or someone else's insecurity dressed up as advice. And when you start seeing doubt for what it really is, a parasite that feeds on inaction and spreads through silence, you'll begin to fight it not with anger, but with clarity, with boldness, with relentless faith in your ability to figure it out. Because no one has it all figured out at the start. No one begins at the top, and no one becomes great by listening to people who quit on their dreams. So don't let the smallness of their vision become the ceiling of your ambition. Don't let their comfort zones become the cage around your potential, and don't let their hesitation slow your momentum, because every step you take in the direction of your truth is a step away from the virus, and every time you act despite the doubt, every time you move forward while they stay frozen, you become stronger, braver, wiser, and eventually you become immune. Not because you never hear doubt, but because you know it's not real, it's not yours, and it's not worth obeying. And as you keep moving, you'll start to notice that the same people who once doubted you will begin to watch in silence, some in awe, some in disbelief, and some still trying to infect you with new fears. But by then, you'll be too focused, too far ahead, too committed to your growth to look back or slow down, because you've built an inner fire that no outside voice can extinguish. And the deeper that fire burns, the more doubt turns into fuel, and the more you begin to see that every "you can't" becomes a challenge, every "be careful" becomes a motivator, and every "that's not realistic" becomes a reason to prove them wrong, not for revenge, not for validation, but as a statement to yourself that you were always capable, always worthy, always enough, even when they couldn't see it. And that's the real power, knowing your worth even when no one claps, trusting your path even when no one understands, and rising so high that doubt no longer lives in your atmosphere. So let them talk, let them warn, let them doubt, but don't you dare absorb it. Don't you dare carry it, and don't you dare stop. Because the only thing worse than being doubted by others is being doubted by yourself. And that's exactly what this virus wants, to turn you against yourself, to make you your own enemy, to watch you sabotage your potential from within. So be ruthless about protecting your mind, be selective about the voices you listen to, and be relentless in the pursuit of your calling, because small minds will always speak loudly, but you were not made to live small. You were made to stretch, to rise, to build something bigger than their fears. And the only way to do that is to stop catching doubt from those who never dared to believe, and start breathing in the belief that you are more than enough, you are equipped, you are chosen, and no virus of fear, no whisper of doubt, no opinion of a small mind can stop you unless you let it. 3. If they can't see your vision, it's not theirs to see, and that's not your problem to fix. It's your truth to protect, because your vision was given to you, planted like a seed deep inside your spirit, not announced on a loudspeaker for public approval, and while it may be tempting to explain it, justify it, or convince the people around you to understand, to get it, to support it, the truth is, they're not supposed to see it, not yet, not until it's real, not until it's undeniable, because vision is a personal revelation, not a group announcement, and if you keep waiting for others to clap for dreams they can't even comprehend, you'll find yourself stuck, spinning, doubting, and eventually quitting, not because your vision was wrong, but because you placed it in hands too small to hold it, and that's where so many people go wrong. They expect others to understand something they themselves haven't built yet. They look for validation from people who have never chased a dream. They ask for permission from those who gave up on their own greatness long ago. And then they wonder why they feel discouraged, why they feel alone, why their dream suddenly feels impossible. But here's the truth. The vision isn't broken, the audience is, and not because they're bad people or dream killers or enemies, but because they were never meant to carry the responsibility of your belief. They were never assigned to your mission, and they were never handed the blueprint that you were. So stop expecting them to see what you see through your eyes, your soul, your calling, because vision is spiritual first, then physical, and in the early stages, it's fragile, sacred, invisible to the outside world, and that's where you must protect it the most, not with fear or defensiveness, but with quiet conviction, knowing that just because they don't understand doesn't mean it's not real, and just because they don't believe doesn't mean it won't happen, because most of the world only believes in results, not in raw ideas, and they won't believe until they see the money, the house, the success, the proof. But by the time they see the results, you'll already be miles ahead, and they'll act like they always knew, like they always believed, but you'll know the truth you built in silence, you worked in faith, and you stayed committed even when no one saw the picture but you, and that's what makes the difference between the dreamers who talk and the doers who deliver, between the ones who seek approval and the ones who create legacy, because vision is not a group project. It's a divine appointment, a sacred whisper that says, there is more. And when you listen, when you follow it, you step into territory that the average mind can't map, territory that scares people, territory that threatens their comfort, because when you chase something big, you become a mirror for everyone who settled for small, and they don't like that reflection. So they'll question you, mock you, warn you, not to hurt you, but to protect their own narrative that says it's too late, it's too hard, it's not possible. And you must not drink from that cup, you must not adopt their limits as your own, because the truth is, if you have a vision that burns inside you, one that keeps you up at night and pulls you out of bed in the morning, one that doesn't make sense to others but makes perfect sense to your spirit, then you are obligated to follow it, not because it's easy, not because it's popular, but because it's yours, and when something is yours in the deepest sense, it won't let you rest, it won't let you quit, it won't let you blend in, and trying to explain it to the wrong people is like trying to show a sunset to someone facing the wrong direction. They simply won't see it, and that's okay because the vision wasn't given to the crowd, it was given to the called, and if you're called, you must stop asking for agreement and start walking in authority. Start speaking like it's done, acting like it's coming, moving like you believe it, even when the results haven't caught up yet, even when the support isn't there, even when the silence is loud and the doubts are louder, because that's the testing ground, the space between revelation and realization, the time when everything inside you wants to scream, maybe they're right, but your spirit whispers, keep going. And if you trust that whisper, if you follow it relentlessly, day after day, step after step, you will find yourself standing in the very place you once only dreamed about, and the people who once looked confused will now look impressed. But don't build your life to impress them. Don't chase the vision for applause. Chase it because it's who you are, because it's your fingerprint on this world, your echo long after you're gone. And when you understand that, when you truly understand that your vision is not a suggestion but a responsibility, you stop needing everyone to get it, and you start being okay with being misunderstood, overlooked, doubted, because those are the signs that you're building something real, something rare, something worth protecting. And the truth is, most people don't see the vision until it's profitable, but visionaries see it when it's invisible, when it's only in the form of a whisper, an idea, a fire, and that's where you must live, not in the realm of what is, but in the realm of what could be, and to live there, to truly build from that space, you must develop the strength to walk alone, the courage to be your own cheerleader, the focus to keep building even when no one claps, and the faith to keep showing up for a future no one else can see, because eventually the vision becomes visible, and when it does, the same people who couldn't see it will want to be a part of it, will want to understand it, will want to stand next to you in the light. But never forget, they weren't with you in the dark. They didn't believe when it was just you, a notebook, a dream, and a fire in your belly. And that fire was all you ever needed, because true visionaries don't wait for light to act. They create light. They walk into the unknown with nothing but belief, and they keep moving forward until the world catches up. And that's you, that's your power, that's your assignment. So don't give it away trying to be understood. Don't waste time trying to be accepted by people who were never meant to walk your path, and don't dilute your dream to fit into their box, because boxes weren't made for builders, and comfort wasn't made for creators. And if you're going to create something that lasts, something that matters, something that changes lives, you have to be willing to stand alone with your vision until the day comes when it stands for itself, shining so bright that even the blind can't ignore it. But until then, protect it, nurture it, believe in it with everything you've got, because it's real, it's powerful, and it's waiting for you to stop explaining and start executing, stop debating and start building, stop hesitating, and start becoming. Because if they can't see your vision, that's okay. It's not theirs to see, but it is yours to bring to life. If your circle doesn't challenge you, then you're not in a circle, you're in a cage, and that cage might look like comfort. It might sound like laughter. It might even feel like home, but make no mistake, it is a prison of stagnation disguised as loyalty, and too many people spend their lives surrounded by familiar faces who keep them small, not because they're malicious, but because they're comfortable. And when comfort becomes your main connection with people, growth becomes the enemy, not the goal. And you've got to look around and ask yourself, are these people building me or binding me? Are they stretching my mind or stroking my ego? Are they pushing me to think bigger, do better, live bolder? Or are they just placating me, validating my excuses, and reinforcing the idea that where I am is good enough? And here's the brutal truth. If everyone around you thinks you're doing amazing, you're probably not doing enough, because real growth makes people uncomfortable, even the ones who love you, especially the ones who have never left their comfort zones. And if your conversations are always easy, always fun, always agreeable, then you're not growing, you're just coasting, and coasting only happens downhill. And it's not that you need people to argue with you or criticize you, no. What you need is a circle that refuses to let you settle, that doesn't clap for mediocrity, that doesn't smile when you play small, that doesn't sit quietly while you talk about age. Dream but never act on it, because a real circle, a true growth circle, will call you out, will challenge your thinking, will ask you tough questions, will make you a little uncomfortable, not to bring you down but to bring you up, and it might sting, it might bruise your pride, but it will build your backbone, and without that, you'll never break through the invisible wall of average that so many people leave behind, pretending they're content when deep down they're frustrated, disappointed, and silently dying in the shallow waters of what could have been. And it's easy to find people who accept you as you are, but much harder and far more valuable to find people who see what you could become and hold you to that standard, not with judgment but with belief, belief so strong that it refuses to let you sabotage your potential, and that belief is rare because most people are afraid of their own greatness to recognize it in someone else, and they'll mistake your ambition for arrogance, your vision for delusion, your hunger for being too much. But don't water yourself down for people who only know how to sip from shallow cups, because you were meant to overflow, and if your circle doesn't make room for your overflow, then you're in the wrong circle, and you've got to be brave enough to admit that, to walk away from good so you can chase great, to choose growth over company, to understand that loneliness with purpose is better than popularity without it, because the truth is, not everyone is meant to come with you. Not everyone has the mindset, the stamina, the heart to keep up with where you're going. And if you keep dragging people who aren't ready, you'll slow down, lose momentum, and maybe even quit. Not because you weren't capable, but because you surrounded yourself with anchors instead of wings, and wings lift you, wings challenge you, wings force you to rise to a new level, and if your circle isn't doing that, it's not your circle. It's your comfort zone wearing a mask, and comfort zones are sneaky. They make you feel safe while they slowly drain your fire, and by the time you realize it, you're surrounded by people who know your name but not your purpose, who remember your past but can't see your future. And if you're serious about becoming more, doing more, living more, then you've got to audit your circle regularly, because energy is contagious, and if all you're surrounded by is mediocrity, then excellence becomes impossible, not because you don't have the talent, but because you don't have the environment to nurture it. And just like a seed can't grow in dry soil, you can't grow in a dry circle. So ask yourself, who's challenging me, who's calling me out, who's pushing me to keep my word, to show up, to stay aligned with my vision when it would be easier to quit? And if the answer is no one, then you've got to become that person for yourself until you find others who do the same, because once you get around people who live in purpose, who breathe ambition, who see obstacles as puzzles instead of problems, your mindset shifts, your energy rises, your pace quickens, and suddenly what once felt impossible starts to feel inevitable, not because the goal changed, but because your circle did. And when your circle normalizes greatness, you stop seeing your dream as far-fetched and start seeing it as your birthright. And that's the power of a strong circle. It redefines what's possible just by how it thinks, how it talks, how it moves. And if you've never felt that before, it's not too late to find it. But you've got to be willing to leave the comfort of "we've always been friends, they've always been there, they're family," and step into the unknown with faith, because better is out there, sharper minds, bigger thinkers, bolder doers. They're out there, and they're waiting for you, but they're not going to come down to your level to find you. You've got to rise to meet them, and rising means letting go of some people who no longer align with your elevation, and that doesn't mean you don't love them. It means you love your future more, and if you're ever going to get to where you're meant to be, you've got to surround yourself with people who fan your flame, not fear your fire, who remind you of who you are when you forget, who hold you accountable when you slack, who make your excuses feel uncomfortable instead of acceptable. And that kind of circle doesn't just help you grow. It makes it impossible not to, because iron sharpens iron, and if there's no friction in your circle, no tough conversations, no elevation of standards, then you're not sharpening. You're dulling, you're drifting, you're slowly settling, and settling is the enemy of success. So be bold enough to ask for more, to expect more, to surround yourself with more, because who you walk with determines how far you go. And if your circle isn't walking with power, with purpose, with passion, then it's time to start walking alone until the right people catch up. Because once you taste what it's like to be in a room where your growth is celebrated, your dreams are challenged, and your soul feels alive, you'll never again settle for a cage disguised as a circle. 5. Your potential is not limited by your ability. It's limited by your associations, and until you realize that who you surround yourself with is shaping who you become, you'll keep playing small in rooms that don't require your greatness, nodding along with average thinking, pretending mediocrity is enough, laughing at small jokes while your destiny is screaming for attention in the background. And the longer you keep company with people who have no desire to grow, the more you begin to believe that growth is optional, that hunger is excessive, that success is for them and not for you. And it's not because you don't have the power, the talent, the brilliance. It's because your associations have normalized shrinking, and when shrinking becomes your atmosphere, you start mistaking safety for success. And here's the truth most people don't want to admit. Energy is everything, and if the people closest to you drain you, doubt you, or distract you, they are slowly disassembling the architecture of your future, brick by brick, smile by smile. And it might not look like sabotage, it might look like love, it might sound like concern, it might even feel like support, but it's not. It's resistance dressed in kindness, and resistance is the number one killer of potential, not in the form of open opposition, but in the form of passive agreement, in the silence when you talk about your goals, in the blank stares when you dream out loud, in the "are you sure?" when you take a risk, in the invisible pressure to stay the same, to play your part, to not disturb the balance of average. And if you don't wake up to this subtle but powerful influence, you'll find yourself years deep into a version of life that was never meant for you, living out the limits of others instead of expressing the fullness of who you were born to be. Because here's what most people forget. Greatness is uncomfortable, not just for you, but for those who witness it. And when you begin to stretch, to break patterns, to outgrow expectations, to shatter the ceiling of normal, it rattles the people who benefited from your old self, from your predictable habits, from your easy to understand dreams. And they may not say it, but they feel it. And instead of rising with you, they'll try to hold you in place, not always on purpose, but always for their comfort, because expansion makes them question their stillness, your vision confronts their indecision, your courage highlights their fear, and unless they're committed to growing too, they won't celebrate you, they'll tolerate you, and toleration is a prison with a polite face. And so you must decide, are you going to keep trying to fit into rooms that can't hold your future, or are you going to get up and find the spaces where your soul is fed, your thinking is stretched, and your goals are too big to be laughed at, because you can't keep planting big dreams in small minds and expecting them to bloom. You can't expect people who have never flown to understand why you need wings, and you can't build a mansion of purpose on a foundation of shallow relationships. And yet so many stay stuck, not for lack of ability, but for fear of disconnection, afraid to lose love, afraid to outgrow their circle, afraid to be alone. But I'll tell you this, loneliness with purpose is better than company without it, because there is no worse feeling than sitting in a room full of people and realizing you still feel unseen, unheard, unknown. And if you want to break free, if you want to rise, then you've got to start choosing alignment over attachment, start choosing progress over popularity, start choosing truth over tradition, because no amount of belonging is worth betraying yourself. And if you've got big dreams, big energy, big goals, then you need people who aren't intimidated by that, who don't just clap when you win but challenge you when you slack, who don't just echo your thoughts but sharpen your ideas, who don't pull you back with reality checks, but push you forward with vision checks, because iron sharpens iron and Cotton Candy Company only leaves you with cavities. Sweet in the moment, damaging in the long run, and your associations should stretch your standards, not soften them. And if you're the smartest, most driven, most disciplined person in your group, then congratulations. But you're also in danger, because comfort is lurking at every compliment, at every "you're doing great." And if no one is making you question your limits, you'll stop questioning them too, and that's how greatness dies. Not with a crash, but with a slow, quiet settling, a silent acceptance of this is enough. When deep down you know it's not, and you feel it, don't you? That quiet discomfort when you share your vision and the room goes silent, that subtle shift when your ambition makes others pull away, that nagging feeling that you're holding back just to keep peace, and I'm here to tell you that peace is a lie, because real peace comes from alignment, from knowing you are walking in your truth, even if that means walking alone. And if your associations can't handle that, then let them go, bless them, love them from afar, but don't let them clip your wings just because they're afraid to fly, because your destiny is not a group decision. It's a personal responsibility, and the moment you stop outsourcing your worth to your circle is the moment you reclaim your power, and from that place of power, you'll start attracting new people. Those who challenge your assumptions, elevate your thinking, stretch your capacity, and remind you who you are when you forget, and suddenly life shifts, your mind expands, your world opens up, not because your potential changed, but because your environment finally matched it. And so I challenge you right now to look at your life, your circle, your energy, and ask, who am I becoming because of these people? And if the answer isn't someone better, wiser, stronger, then you owe it to your future to change the room, because your associations are either your elevators or your anchors, and you don't get to blame the building you're in if you're the one who keeps stepping into the wrong floors. So take the elevator up, even if you have to ride it alone for a while, because the higher you go, the clearer the view, and the clearer the view, the greater the decisions, and the greater the decisions, the more powerful your life becomes. And it all starts with one choice: to stop letting your associations decide your altitude, and to finally choose your circle based not on comfort, but on alignment with your destiny. 6. Most people don't realize this, but the ones holding you back often wear the face of love, and that's what makes it so hard to see. Because when the people who claim to love you the most also happen to be the same ones who are keeping you the smallest, you're faced with an invisible chain wrapped in kindness, and you don't question it at first. Not when it's your best friend who says, "Are you sure that's realistic?" Or your parents who say, "We just don't want you to get hurt." Or your partner who gently hints, "Maybe now's not the right time." And in your heart, it feels like care, but in your spirit, it feels like friction, like something is squeezing your wings, not violently, but consistently, just enough to keep you grounded. And that's how most dreams die, not in the storm of failure, but in the slow drizzle of discouragement from those who mean well, because when it comes from enemies, you can brush it off. But when it comes from loved ones, you start to question yourself, and that's the trap, that's the quiet danger. Internalizing the fears of others as if they're your own, and make no mistake, most of the time, it's not your potential they doubt, it's their own belief that they project onto you, and they do it because they see your leap as a mirror of their stillness, your courage as a reminder of their hesitation, your hunger as something that forces them to confront the areas where they gave up too soon, and instead of rising with you, they start pulling you back, sometimes with sweet words, sometimes with concern, but always with one result. You stay stuck, and the worst part is, you'll start justifying it. You'll say they mean well, or they're just looking out for me, or they know me best. But here's the truth. Just because someone loves you doesn't mean they understand your calling. Just because they're close to you doesn't mean they're aligned with your vision. And if you're not careful, You'll spend your life editing your dream to make it digestible for people who were never meant to eat at your table, and there's nothing noble about shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never designed for your expansion. So yes, it hurts when you realize the voices that have shaped you have also stunted you, but that pain is necessary, that realization is sacred, because the moment you see it, you get to choose. Do I keep living under the weight of their limitations, or do I finally stand up and build the life that's mine? And it's not about cutting people off cold or living in anger. No, it's about honoring your growth enough to set new boundaries, boundaries that say, I love you, but I can't let your fear dictate my future. Boundaries that protect your purpose like a lion guards its cub, because purpose is fragile at first, easily influenced, easily discouraged, and if you don't build a fortress of belief around it, the doubts of others will chip away at it until it's just a faded memory of what could have been, and many people wake up one day realizing they've been living someone else's version of life, chasing goals they didn't choose, following paths that feel safe but soulless, because from the time they were young, someone told them, that's too risky, or you're not the type. Or no one we know has done that. And they carried that limitation like a badge of honor when really it was a chain. And here's the truth that frees you. No one knows your path like you do. No one feels your calling like you do. And no one can walk it but you. So stop handing the steering wheel of your destiny to people who have never left the driveway of comfort. Stop seeking approval from those who gave up on their own dreams, and start trusting the whisper inside you, that fire that refuses to go out, that tug that won't leave you alone, because that's your soul remembering why it came here, and your job isn't to silence it, it's to follow it fiercely, unapologetically, and with clarity, and that means there will be people who don't get it, people who pull away, people who call you crazy, selfish, or ungrateful, and that's okay, because the cost of becoming who you were meant to be is often paid in currency of misunderstanding, and if you're not willing to be misunderstood for a while, you'll be misaligned forever. So yes, it might get lonely. Yes, it might feel like you're walking away from the only support you've ever known, but what's the point of being surrounded if you're still stuck? What's the point of having people around you if they keep you from becoming the person you were born to be? And if you think this is harsh, consider the alternative, living a life of silent frustration, clapping for others while your own fire burns out, dying with your music still inside you because someone else was too afraid to hear the sound. And let me tell you, that's not love, that's not protection, that's not loyalty. That's fear, and you don't owe fear your future. You don't owe anyone your stillness in exchange for their comfort. So take inventory of your circle, of your family, your friends, your mentors, and ask, do they feed my faith or fuel my doubt? Do they challenge my comfort or comfort my limitations? And if the answer tilts toward doubt and limitations, you know what to do. And yes, it's hard, but growth is hard, and elevation demands separation. Not from love, but from limitation, not from people, but from patterns, and the pattern of holding back because you fear disapproval has to die if your dream is going to live. And here's what happens when you break free. You begin to attract new voices, voices that say, why not you? Voices that push you when you stall, that challenge you when you coast, that believe in you so loudly you can't help but believe in yourself. And those voices are out there, waiting, but you'll never hear them if the noise of your current circle keeps drowning them out. So lower the volume of those who doubt and raise the volume of your vision, and don't apologize for it, don't shrink for it, don't backtrack when it gets uncomfortable, because the discomfort of growth is a small price to pay for the freedom of alignment, and once you taste that freedom, you'll never again settle for a cage. No matter how pretty it looks or how familiar it feels, and you'll look back and thank yourself for being brave, for breaking the chain, for choosing your calling over their comfort, because the life you were meant to live has no room for compromise, no room for apology, no room for fear dressed as love. It only has room for purpose, clarity, and relentless forward motion. And that kind of life, that kind of freedom, begins the moment you stop letting those who love you hold you back and start loving yourself enough to move forward anyway. 7. When you finally decide to rise, to walk boldly in the direction of your calling, to stop hiding your brilliance for the sake of fitting in, something unexpected happens. The masks around you start to fall, and you begin to see people not for who they pretended to be, but for who they truly are. And that's when the hard truth sets in. They weren't supporting you. They were surviving off of your silence, your obedience, your willingness to play small so they could feel big. And once you break that pattern, once you step into your own light unapologetically, you'll notice how fast the atmosphere shifts, how people who once praised you now question you, how those who used to call you family begin to distance themselves, not because you changed, but because your evolution exposed their stagnation. And growth, my friend, is the great revealer. It doesn't just elevate you, it reveals who was truly for you, who clapped because they cared, and who clapped because it kept you predictable, manageable, and contained. And when you outgrow the mold they cast you in, they won't always cheer. You'll confuse them, challenge them, even trigger them, because you'll remind them of what they could have been if only they dared to believe in themselves. And that reflection is painful, not because of you, but because of what it uncovers in them. And so, rather than join you, they'll resist you. They'll label your hunger as arrogance, your vision as fantasy, your standards as selfishness, and they'll do it in subtle ways. A sarcastic comment here, a passive-aggressive jab there, a sudden lack of interest in your wins, and if you're not grounded in who you are, you'll fall into the trap of chasing their approval again, shrinking again, softening your light just to make them comfortable. And you've done that for too long already, haven't you? Dimmed your shine so others wouldn't feel blinded, played down your ambition so others wouldn't feel insecure, smiled and nodded when deep down you were screaming to be free. And the reason you feel so heavy isn't because you're tired, it's because you're carrying expectations that were never yours to begin with. And when you finally put them down, when you stop trying to be everything for everyone and start being fully, authentically, powerfully yourself, it's like breathing for the first time. And sure, some will walk away, but let them go, because real love doesn't punish growth. It nurtures it, and true connection isn't threatened by evolution, it's inspired by it. And if they can't handle the new you, then they never truly saw you to begin with. They saw who they needed you to be, who it was convenient for you to be. But now that convenience is over, now that you've decided to stop living a watered-down version of your life, you're going to need courage, not to fight them, but to keep walking when their voices try to pull you back, and you will hear them. You've changed. They'll say, and you must smile and say, I was supposed to. Because change is not betrayal, it's alignment, and if your path to purpose offends those stuck in cycles, then so be it, because your job is not to stay small so others won't feel left behind. Your job is to rise so you can show them what's possible, and whether they follow or not is their decision, not your responsibility. And don't get it twisted. This journey isn't about ego, it's about integrity, the integrity to follow the voice within you even when it leads you away from everything familiar, the integrity to keep climbing when comfort begs you to sit still, the integrity to walk alone if it means walking in truth, because authenticity is costly, but regret is more expensive, and too many people live haunted by the versions of themselves they abandoned just to be accepted, and that's no way to live, and you know it, because something inside you has always whispered that you were made for more, not just to survive, but to thrive, to lead, to create, to impact, to break generational patterns, to redefine what's possible. And that kind of mission doesn't come with universal applause. It comes with tension, resistance, pruning, and at times heartbreak. But it also comes with power, with clarity, with the unshakable peace of knowing you are finally becoming who you were designed to be. And from that place, you attract differently. You attract purpose over popularity, depth over drama, alignment over attachment, and those who remain in your life They don't just accept your growth, they celebrate it. They challenge you to keep evolving, to keep dreaming, to never settle. And with them, you don't have to shrink or pretend. You can speak freely, dream loudly, and move boldly. And that's the circle you deserve. Not one built on history, but on harmony, not one rooted in obligation, but in elevation. And you find it not by begging others to change, but by becoming the kind of person who makes no apology for the fire they carry. And as your fire burns brighter, the right people will gather not to dim it, but to fuel it, to match it. Build with it, and those are the relationships that move mountains, that shift legacies, that awaken destinies, and they are waiting on the other side of your decision to stop hiding, to stop explaining, to stop asking for permission, and to start living, really living, in the fullness of your truth. No more compromises, no more pretending, no more begging small minds to understand big dreams, because at some point you've got to stop auditioning for roles in other people's stories and start owning the lead in your own. And when you do, the world won't just notice. You'll inspire others to do the same, and maybe, just maybe, the ones who once doubted you will see what's possible through you, and they'll rise too, not because you forced them, but because you freed them by freeing yourself. And that's how legacy is born, not in the silence of compliance, but in the roar of authenticity, the roar that says, I am no longer hiding, no longer waiting, no longer pretending. And if that roar scares a few people off, let them go, because the ones meant for you will hear that roar and roar back, louder, stronger, clearer, together building a future where no one has to shrink to fit, where no one has to suffer in silence, where no one has to apologize for wanting more, and that future starts with you, right now, choosing to rise.